Mr. Chowdhury?
Present.
Ms. Hall? Mr. Obaid?
Present.
Ms. Ayash? Ms. Watson?
Present.
Mr. Major?
Present.
Resolution number 1, acceptance of agenda. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Obaid, seconded by Mr. Chowdhury. Resolved that upon the recommendation of the superintendent, the Board of Education accepts and approves the agenda with any additions or deletions. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, next up, we have our board calendar updates. Our February 23rd is our COW meeting. March 9th is our next regular board meeting, and March 23rd is our March COW meeting. Is everybody able to make it on those days? Yeah. All right. Resolution number 2, approval of consent agenda items. Can I have a motion?
I'll second that.
Motion by Ms. Watson, seconded by Mr. Obaid. Resolved that upon the recommendation of the superintendent, the Board of Education approves the following items under the consent agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, any of the new hires here in attendance? Sorry?
Send a welcome to them.
I will do that. Thank you.
All right, we have audience participation. Do you have any, Joanne?
I can double check, but I doubt it.
There were none online.
No.
All right. All right. Resolution number 3, approval of invoices and check registers. Can I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Major,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Obey. Resolved that the check register for the period of January 13th through February 9th, 2022 as enclosed be approved. All in favor? Aye. No nays. Resolution number 4, MASB Board of Directors elections. Can I get a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Obey,
I'll second Watson.
seconded by Ms. Watson. Resolved that the Board of Education does hereby select one of the following candidates from the list as their choices for MASB Board of Directors seat for Region 8. So we have 4 candidates. The incumbent is Darlene from Southgate Community Schools. And the rest are running against her. So what's your guys' thoughts?
I don't know. I do. Each one. I know the first candidate, so I know of the first candidate, but I personally don't have a relationship with anybody. Don't have any reason to discount the incumbent. Just personally. I read all the materials that people sent to us, and she seems like a qualified candidate person in that role.
All right.
What do you guys think?
What do you guys think about re-electing the incumbent? Ms. Darlene? You're good with it?
Yeah, as long as there's no term limits or anything like that.
All right.
She's able to run again and she's interested to run again.
I don't think any of these districts necessarily have a ton in common with us. So
Yeah.
The difference between people, from what I know, from what they sent us, isn't huge. So.
Okay. So, how about you, Mr. Lee? I go with you. You go with that? Same? All right, Joanne, so we all selected Darlene Pompano of Southgate Community Schools. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, resolution number 5, awarding a bid for maintenance buildings roof replacement. Can I have a motion?
Yes.
Mr. Chowdhury, seconded by Ms. Hall. Resolved that the Board of Education does hereby award the bid for the maintenance building roof replacement project to LaDuke Roofing and Sheet Metal. Total amount not to exceed $229,173, with a construction contingency in the amount of $18,000. All in favor?
Yeah.
Oh,
Which building is this?
the maintenance building?
Maintenance building, on, what is?
Oh, yeah.
Behind the bus garage.
Okay. No, that's okay. That was my question.
And mine was, are there any other bids out still? Is it,
At this moment, this is the last one.
this is the last one?
All right. Anybody else? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Resolution number 6, resolution in support for IDEA funding. Can I have a motion?
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Major, seconded by Ms. Watson. Whereas the Hamtramck Public School District recognizes the need for a strong investment in the Individuals with Disability Education Act IDEA, and whereas the Individuals with Disability Education Act was first enacted in 1975 to help ensure that all students with disabilities will have access to a free, appropriate public education, and whereas the enactment of IDEA, the United States Congress committed to fund up to 40% of the additional costs of special education, thereby promising to provide more up to 40% of the national average per pupil expenditure, which is currently estimated at $13,828 by the United States Department of Education. And whereas since IDEA's enactment more than 45 years ago, the current federal investment in IDEA is less than 14%. And whereas the Hamtramck Public School District and many other public school districts throughout the United States educate a growing number of children with disabilities that is now more than 7 million. And whereas our nation's school districts face an increased demand for a greater resource to fulfill the needs of students under IDEA, including those students affected by multiple disabilities whose individual education plans require more resources. And whereas with each increase in the IDEA child count, the Hamtramck Public School Board and others throughout the country continue to adjust their budget to accommodate this increased need and ensure that each child educated through IDEA receives the appropriate support, with some school districts dedicating 40% or more of their general fund budgets to special education services. And be it resolved, the Hamtramck Public School Board supports the IDEA Full Funding Act that will help strengthen the federal investment in special education by authorizing a 10-year plan to fully fund the federal share of IDEA. And be it resolved that the Hamtramck Public School Building urges Congress strong bipartisan support for the passage of the IDEA Full Funding Act. And now, therefore, let it be resolved that the Hamtramck Public School Board remains committed in providing students with disabilities and their families the support they need, and acknowledges the intergovernmental partnership among local, state, and federal levels of government critical to the shared investment in our children. All in favor? You got a question?
Yeah. Mr. Nagy, was this,
Yes.
was this a coordinated effort?
Thank you.
For Lisa or?
Yeah, Bob McCain from the K-12 Alliance of Michigan and superintendents of Wayne Risa decided to create this resolution. Every board is encouraged to create resolution such, because as you can see, we're not getting the 40%, we're getting the 14%. So after this resolution is passed, then they're going to take the delegates will take this to Washington, D.C. to, collect all the resolutions that were passed from different districts and hopefully make some change.
Thanks. Anybody else? Any questions? Questions? No? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
No nays? Motion passes. Resolution number 7, funds for the Hamtramck Park Conservancy. Can I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Major.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Obey. Whereas the Hamtramck Park Conservancy was officially established at September 9, 2020, joint meeting with the Hamtramck City Council and the Hamtramck School Board. And whereas the Board of Trustees of the Hamtramck Parks Conservancy includes 2 members appointed by superintendent of the school district of the city of Hamtramck. And whereas the Hamtramck Parks Conservancy is requesting funds from each entity that is represented on the board of trustees to cover operation costs, including insurance. Therefore, let it be resolved by the school district and the city of Hamtramck that $5,000 be granted from the recreation fund to the Hamtramck Parks Conservancy to cover up startup costs for the new organization. Any questions?
I have a question. What is this? I mean, like, what does it consist of and how does it benefit our children?
Great question. So we have Mr. David Palmer with us today. He is the interim director for the Hamtramck Parks Conservancy and can give a little more background on that.
Good evening. I'm the invitation, Mr. Superintendent and board. Nice to meet you all. I'm the interim executive director for the Hamtramck Parks Conservancy. It was formed in 2020, as the resolution states, through a joint authorization by the Hamtramck Public Schools and the city of Hamtramck. It consists of about 27 acres, which is about half owned by the city at Veterans Park and half owned by the schools at Playfair, directly adjacent to this building. So we have a recreation district plan that was created with a significant amount of community input back in 2019 and 2020. And we've been in startup mode over the last year. I've been engaged since March through the Michigan Municipal League. And we're at the process now where we're developing plans for the next 2 years to do significant improvements to the parks, including trail building, installing new playscapes. We've invested $2.6 million into restoration of historic Hamtramck Stadium, which is about maybe a quarter mile from here with multiple funders. So the $5,000 was originally committed by both the schools and the city during formation, but it was not formalized by this body to actually allow for the transfer of resources to occur. So we're kind of backtracking a little bit and checking off a box for the contributions by board members to the organization.
What I was gonna say? So you said that you guys are building trails and what else?
Well, the SMART Phase 1 is $10 million worth of improvements to the combined facilities. So we're looking at redoing the parking lots. We're looking at installing a new playscape with the support of General Motors and the Ralph C. Wilson Jr. Foundation. We are looking at improving the alleyways adjacent to the park and doing a significant amount of cleanup. We've been developing a relationship with General Motors, who's going to be investing a significant amount of time, energy, and dollars into supporting Hamtramck, shifting their focus from the Cody Rouge area of Detroit to Hamtramck for the next 3 to 5 years. So we've already had conversations with them about potentially looking at murals on school district buildings if this board sees fit, as well as looking at improving STEM education opportunities in collaboration with the Conservancy and the folks at GM and some of their suppliers. So there's a lot of exciting things in the works, and really I've been working to build relationships across multiple organizations so that we can have a stronger cross-pollination opportunity moved through the Conservancy since we have the attention of the philanthropic community right now, taking full advantage of it and leverage it for this community.
And then what was the last project you guys did?
The last project that we did is the current one. We're finishing the restoration of Hamtramck Stadium. Previous to that, the work was mainly focused around creating the recreation district plan, which is accessible at hamtramckparks.com.
So is that for the Negro League for the baseball field?
The Detroit Stars home stadium. So we've been working with the Detroit Tigers, the Kresge Foundation, Major League Baseball, the Wilson Foundation, and several other funders to put the restoration in place. And I'm having conversations right now with the Tigers about improving the lighting and security at the stadium.
Okay, so so do we always give money, or do they like bring money to us, or how does that work?
When we started
What is it, God?
when we started this project, we enjoyed with the city for all the parts.
Okay.
Yeah.
So part of it is keyword improvements and all the parking places.
So we're just helping the city with the price.
Well, actually, it's there's different grants and different donations rather. And then the city and school districts, two big stakeholders in the projects, came together, hence the creation of the Hamtramck Parks Conservancy. We meet once a month and there's donors. So if the baseball field, and there's other projects. We're looking into some soccer areas for the students, also the Wi-Fi. I don't know if that's part of, there's a lot more, but there's bigger contribution, but this is a contribution that was, basically agreed upon several, how long was it? 2020, that the city would contribute in the school district. So everyone give their part for that, for the initial start.
I could piggyback on that. Just that this is like an enormous project and partnership, and there's definitely a lot to it. And I'd say like anyone who needs background information, but we could either possibly get it on our cow agenda and have a more detailed discussion.
Right, I was going to say that.
Is
there a way to table it? Because I just feel like we give like to a lot of organizations and we have like a lot going on with our kids. Like we can use that money for an 8th grade field trip. We can use that money for new uniforms for KMS because I'm pretty sure they're still using the same old uniforms back in the day, like I said before. But I just feel like we use that for a fund towards the yearbook because they didn't have no yearbook last year. I feel like it just seems like we give out a lot of money and we don't receive it back for our children.
Right.
I think in this case, it'll be reciprocal, and I wasn't involved from the way, from the beginning of the conservancy or origins, but it comes out of a certain funding source as well.
For Ms. Lydon, how are we with the recreation fund? Because I know like we're usually in like almost in the negative with it.
Last 2 years, the recreation fund has been increasing.
So we can afford to use the recreation fund money for this? Yeah.
So my whole thing is, okay, so if we fund for this, then we should be looking forward to some new uniforms. The 8th graders should have a great senior field trip.
Yearbook.
Yeah, yearbook. So I just feel like if we okay this, I just want to see a lot of this in the future because we already paying for a lot of things to exist, wasting a lot of money, and it's not benefiting our students.
I'm used to just saying that this is not.
I mean, I feel like, yeah, I get it. Sometimes school districts help the city to improve the parks.
There's a lot to understand that.
Wait, that's what I'm saying. I need more information.
It's our property too. So it's keyword Playfair, which is everything from here to Conan.
I get that.
And veterans together. And it created a joint master plan for the redevelopment of the entire property together. And only working together will allow us to pursue types of funding sources that wouldn't give directly to the city or directly to the school district. And so by doing that, we're being able to open up entire new areas of opportunity that will directly benefit generations of kids and families by having a state-of-the-art recreational facility from Campo to Conan. And it's just like the tiniest snapshot of it. So not to mention, this is just our following through on our commitment from 2 years ago.
Exactly.
And by enjoying the city, we getting grants that help us also to improve our recreations, parks.
Donations by big organizations and philanthropic.
Some of the things that the district is going to be getting directly out of this is what your colleagues are talking about, which is millions of dollars worth of philanthropic contributions that would be challenging, if not impossible, to receive otherwise. And I would say that the Playfair portion of the recreation district is going to receive, I think, a special focus because there's an awful lot of space there that could be utilized in different ways according to the recreation district plan. Further, I've been actively working with the superintendent and a number of school staff to look for ways that we can improve STEM education for youth at Hamtramck Public Schools through the Conservancy. So if I'm going to be building parking lots, I don't really want to build a parking lot. We got a lot of parking lots. They're in a unique location and situated close to Keyworth. But what I've been working with University of Michigan and General Motors on is to determine if there's a feasible way to install things like solar canopies over one or both of those lots, as well as stormwater runoff retention, so that we can have an active collaboration with the STEM educators at Hamtramck Public Schools to show that you can capture energy, you can store it, you can power the lights and the needs of the park, as well as reuse of stormwater so that we can water fields rather than use clean potable drinking water to keep baseball fields green. In addition to all the other recreation activities that we'll be working on implementing over the next couple of years with programming, really this conservancy is an opportunity to further integrate the efforts that this board invests on behalf of the students of the city with the other parts of the community which have traditionally been siloed because they're different institutions. This is a clearinghouse and an opportunity for strong collaboration and really driving education and workforce development, I think, are two key, perhaps unintended consequences of the convening and collaborations that we're driving.
Yeah, were you saying that yes, you were already thinking about having it on the college?
Yeah, at a later time, if you'd like, we can put that into the COB, because that's in 2 weeks, right? 2 weeks. What's our date?
Whenever it's convenient
okay.
for the group, presenters.
Yeah, because I've never heard of them, and I just feel like
you can also get just ask for a one-on-one meeting, with Mr. Nagy, Ms. Lynham to get the full background on it also.
And we didn't know how much time we had.
We put a ton of work into this over the years. So
Yeah.
Come back.
HamtramckParks.com has acknowledgments of the various funders and projects that we've worked on. We have an Instagram page that's up that was active through the fall, and we'll start up again here soon again. Ultimately, the recreation district plan that the community helped create is right on the homepage of HamtramckParks.com, which has a very dense and a lot of visioning that took place that we've been working on executing.
So do you guys plan on fixing the bathrooms?
We have been awarded $800,000 between the DNR Trust Fund at the state of Michigan and a federal grant to work on bathrooms. The Ralph C. Wilson Jr. Foundation has provided a match of $500,000, and I'm actively working with the city to see if they can provide in-kind contributions for the other $100,000 match.
Mm-hmm.
Representative Brenda Lawrence has also requested a congressional appropriation for $630,000 to help round out that project. So the bathroom building is targeted for about $2 million in improvements, including environmental remediation, adding male and female bathrooms, and we're going to be looking for ways to install locker room facilities for the use of the field as well. And I can say that the Tigers are planning a June event for the in solid coordination with the Negro Leagues, professional Negro Leagues celebration. They're looking at a way to bring 250 students out to the field for a Major League Play Ball event. So we just had that conversation today, and I'm going to be reaching out to the superintendent and Mr. Daniels at the Recreation Department to look at ways to bring more students from Hamtramck schools to the site in mid-June. So there's an awful lot of cross-pollination opportunities and a tremendous amount of goodwill that have been invested by a number of folks, including the school.
So you guys have nothing to do with Pulaski, just veterans and Playfair?
Right now, our purview is veterans and Playfair. We did support an application by Eastern Michigan University to acquire a lot at the north end of the city so that they could end up creating a pocket park with Community Foundation for Southeastern Michigan dollars from the Ralph C. Wilson Jr. Legacy Fund. So I think there's a willingness in the future to look at potentially expanding the scope of how the Conservancy operates in the city, but ultimately, we've got a long list of things that we're working on just for veterans and Playfair, including the infrastructure improvements that I noted a few moments ago.
So these, what is, I don't want to say. So the things that you guys trying to, like you said, parking lot, but you said you don't want to just do that. When do you think that'll be done? Like the job?
Wow. Well, I'm working with an engineering team at the University of Michigan right now. They're master's students that are all working professionally, and they're helping me develop the scope of work that would be included in the RFP. So they're doing a national literature search to determine if there's other examples of communities that have done the things that we're proposing, so that we can learn from those best practices and get out a good RFP. So we know that we can be competitive in this marketplace for pricing, because as you all have probably gone through with the re-roof of the maintenance building, everything's going up. So I'm trying to find ways in the next year to get that project started so that we can generate a return on the investment rather than just maintaining a piece of asphalt.
So are you guys using the parking lot that exists now, or you plan on expanding it?
We're going to use the parking lot on the footprint that exists now, I believe is the plan. I don't think expanding it was in the scope that the Recreation District plan called for. Nor do I like to take up additional green space for cars.
Right.
So we want to be able to utilize that source again as a sustainability project. And I personally have a dream of being able to launch a farmer's market there someday, so that community members can come out and use the canopies as a degree of shelter during the summer, and bring a public bazaar or a farmer's market to the city within the next 3 to 5 years.
So technically because if we're talking about the parking lot right there where the old place gate used to be, or you're talking about farther to the back where the reserve cops stay, where the old baseball field is.
Where the old baseball field, the Pinky Darris field is one of the parking lots, and the second parking lot is behind Hamtramck Stadium. So those 2 areas are the ones that we're focusing on.
Can you sit behind, can you maybe do direction?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. So it would be between the railroad tracks and Hamtramck Stadium. So if you're coming up Dan Street, there's a parking lot there with about 60 spaces or so. So that lot, along with the lot that's adjacent to Pinky Darris Field, are the 2 that the student group is working on with me to determine these feasibility. Because the Hamtramck Stadium going to have a tremendous amount of stormwater runoff as well. And working with the city, we know that the infrastructure is, we'll say, challenged. So we don't want to create unintended consequences for neighbors because systems are working again where they haven't worked since the 70s. Mostly.
So in reality, you guys can't really start working on it until they finish the new stadium, right? Because you guys will be in the way trying to fix the pavement and it could possibly get messed up.
Well, the stadium should be finished within the next couple of weeks. They originally targeted February 8th for the final city inspection, but weather didn't cooperate. So they're actively working on that now, and we expect the field restoration to take place in March or April. So there's probably 2 or 3 dozen different projects associated with Smart Phase 1, which Mr. Major has been alluding to from the Recreation District plan. So we're running, walking, chewing gum, and working on our tablet all at the same time.
You guys are going to put this on a couch too?
Yeah.
Talk more about it.
So we're tabling this resolution?
I think we should vote on this because this is something we committed to years
2 years ago.
But we should definitely make sure that we all are clear on all of the larger, details and direction.
Okay.
So people can ask more questions.
All right.
What do you guys think?
Good. Yeah, we can vote on it.
I have a question. Is everyone else, are we the last to the table for this contribution? Has everyone else already committed their funds for it?
The city has committed their funds, and the school district was the last to
Okay, that's all. Thank you.
So,
All right. Any more questions?
Thanks for being here.
No.
All right. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Yeah. So you see that?
Yeah.
1 nay and 5 ayes.
thank you, and I'm happy to come back for a formal presentation or meet with any of you one-to-one or in small group sessions.
Thank you, David.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Encourage anyone to take them up on that.
Thank you.
I like updates.
Reports to the board.
Yes, we have COVID-19 updates. Melanie, there you are.
I think all of you have just like the general numbers, so I'll just review that. Not much for you to report. As you may have noticed, that the dashboard on on the district is not an accurate reflection about what's going on. We had 0 reported cases last week in the district, but we know that there were absences, there were still reported cases in the city. But I did go back and do some calculations. You'll see that on the top of that COVID updates document. So just looking back at what we have pulling from the city contact and then the Wayne County Health Department. So in January, we were at over 200 cases, new cases, right, in Hamtramck alone. And now, so again, it's just been for 1 week, we're down to 70 new cases a day. So this is an noticeable adjustment to that, right? So we're going to be watching those trends, much as Wayne County Health Department will be in the state of Michigan, and what that all means. It is mirroring in Hamtramck the same trends that we're seeing throughout the rest of the county, as well as to the state right now. And then, so again, just pulled up some infographics there for you on your document, just so you can see how we're comparing to the Tri-County area, and kind of what it's looking at. Again, when we would be looking to make any decisions based on increasing or decreasing litigation or anything like that within the district, or even considering adopting like the shortened quarantine or isolation, the state of Michigan and the CDC and the health department, the Wayne County Health Department have given. If we're looking at any of that, we're going to need to see a substantial downtrend in cases for at least 14 consecutive days, because of the variations that our district faces as well too. But it's promising, right? So again, that dashboard that I included in there, not an accurate representation, but with less than 1% of our district consenting to regular testing, we've got that. So that's going to be underreported. And then, and again, we have many, staff and students that stay out but don't get tested, so we can't offer those as confirmed cases. We do have, I don't know if that showed up, I apologize. I had an image of a flyer included in there, but I think
the COVID testing?
Maybe I accidentally, is that on yours?
Yeah.
Okay,
I have it.
It's not on mine. Okay, good.
Yeah, testing is weekly and optional.
Yes. And so we did adjust. So we have a new coordinator, same company that we've been using. So Prestige Specialty Pharmacy, a new coordinator named Sarah. She's been wonderful, very communicative. So we did make a little adjustment. If you're familiar with the other schedule, we went Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Now we're down to a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. There's some hiccups along the way with many testing this week, but we had our first official day today, and it went smoothly. And I'm working with the EL department as well to get some videos for doing home test kits to just encourage any type of testing that we have, as well as getting clips of various notable people around the district consenting to and getting that on-campus testing. So we're looking at expanding our promotion and encouragement of getting tested. And then just a follow-up too on masks. Many thanks to Rich. So we have the blue surgical mask that you'll see. So I brought a couple samples here. So we do have available for staff and students at all the buildings, right? That blue surgical mask available for anybody that would need it. And then an OSHA approved KN95.
Actually, I think they're N95s, not K. I was wrong about that. So they're N95s, Rich.
N95. Excuse me, N95.
Is that what? Did I say the wrong one? Sorry.
No.
I'm getting confused.
Yeah. So we have those, and then again, any mask etiquette is strongly encouraged. So we've got a nice discussion going on around with the buildings and the staff really to increase any mask compliance. So again, paper masks are not mandated by the district, but they're an option for those that have it. Any mask counts, as long as it's a good, a good cloth mask or the paper mask. So we're making those more available and then really increasing that, the etiquette of both demonstrating modeling that staff will do, and then helping students stay accountable for wearing those masks. And that's about it.
And also, if anyone wants to volunteer to do a video.
Yes, I'll be taking little video clips of people getting
You check the temperature?
getting swabs.
Temperature, everyone?
Checking the temperature.
Yeah.
I think I know that part of the screening for staff and students in order to come to campus it's like reporting like an on your honor kind of that you're testing that temperature. We do have thermometers. I know each building is a little bit different. Some of them do test them each time. Some of them test them only if they come to the office because they're symptomatic or maybe in the classroom. I think it was Dickinson West. I think Ms. Danforth had said that she got, I think it was her building, or maybe it was McGee, maybe it was one of the buildings that said that they purchased like for every classroom, every teacher to have a thermometer. Partially because it certainly is an option for screening, but especially with these strains, fever isn't always associated with it. So it becomes one of those things that based on how many staff and the influx of students, especially in the winter time, coming in to test them all, was it an accurate tool? Did it actually help, or was it kind of creating? So that's why we added at the beginning of the school year for a home check of the temperature, and then to make it available for staff and students that needed it when they were on campus, but not part of coming in the building anymore. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for staying on top of that. Oh my gosh.
Next up, we have Rebecca Brewer, presentation of PA 48.
Gosh, I need my glasses. I can barely see that.
Sorry.
Oh my gosh. Okay, here we go. That's better. Well, good evening, and thank you for having me once again to share with you. This first report that I'm going to do is a perfunctory required report. It's a new one that was born out of the Return to Learn piece. The legislation decided that it was a great idea for us to report mid-year our progress towards our goals that we constructed in response to Return to Learn initiatives. So the reason why I say this is perfunctory is because our data, I would not be bringing data to you right now because our data is severely compromised at this time because our winter testing we had to do online. So we know that it's not going to be an accurate depiction of growth between the fall data, which was done in person and was facilitated by teachers and parapros. And whatever happened in our household with parents and kids trying to figure this out. Not to say that teachers weren't trying to be helpful, they weren't, but we just, without that control, I just feel like I have to put that out there first because this data is, in my opinion, it's really tainted. But however, it is required that I bring this to you today. So take it with a grain of salt. This is what we're gonna take a look at really quickly. And I only did high level data. So all 8 of our schools tested. The total number of students assessed in reading was about 85%. And the total students assessed in math was about 81%. So bear with me because this is kind of a small graph, but then I included some that are a little bit easier to see what I'm talking about. But I wanted to share this one with you because it's easy to see. If you just focus on the top row across, our projected goal, our established target in the fall, we said we wanted to see 7 points growth across the board. And we have seen in reading, but we've seen 6.25 points growth according to our tainted test data. And then if you look at across the district, our established target for math was 7.6 points of growth for this time of year. And what we've seen is 8.75. So this breakdown is by grade level. If you look down the left-hand column, and then across the top, you can see the school buildings that we are required to report out. Are there any questions on this graph before I move on, or this chart rather? Okay, I know it's a lot to look at. So this one might be a little bit easier to see. So if you're talking about, this, you want to think about student growth on a continuum over the course of an entire year. So it's kind of difficult to take a guess at where kids might be mid-year, right? Especially when our last year didn't look really normal. And a lot of our assessment, in fact, most of the assessment was done at home and virtually. So we got a whole lot of test data that isn't what you would call pure data because of a lot of circumstances beyond the district's control. But this is what we're looking at right now. We have progress towards our spring goal. And we already have, if you take a look at this column, the percentage who have already met their spring goal. So even at the midpoint of the year, this is where they're at. And so this is the percent that has improved placement. Is it okay for me to move forward?
Yeah.
And then this would be 9 through 12. And this is reported a little bit differently just because the requirements, the state requirements are a little bit different. And then this is by school, if you wanted to take a different look at it, a different slant. So once again, please take this data with a grain of salt. I really would prefer to not have had to bring this to you because of how compromised I think the data is, but here we are. And so this is the math data summary by grade level, and you can just kind of take a look. We do not have kindergarten data for math because we piloted the KRA, which is the required kindergarten reading assessment this fall, and it was a big lift. So we didn't test them as well in iReady. We felt like that was just going to be a lot of overkill for kindergarten kids. So, and for kindergarten teachers. So we don't have kindergarten data, but the rest of that data is the data that represents what we collected. And then this would be the 9 through 12 summary by grade level. So just to summarize all of this data, because I know it's a lot to look at charts with a bunch of numbers. In reading, all grade levels saw a decrease in the total number of students who were determined to be 2 or more grade levels behind during the fall 2022 iReady diagnostic, and an increase in students determined to be on or above grade level. So we have fewer kids who were testing 2 or more grade levels behind, and more kids who were determined to be on or above grade level. So that is growth. All buildings also saw a similar decrease in students 2 or more grade levels below, except for Horizon, which we did see a small increase. Similarly, all buildings saw an increase in students on or above grade level. So students K through 8 are currently on track to reach spring individual typical growth goals. 79% of students are currently at tier 2 or at risk of tier 3 in ELA, which means they need intervention. So, and then a summary for math across the district is the same. It's very similar. We saw a decrease in the total number of students that were determined to be 2 or more grade levels behind, and an increase in students who are at or above grade level. And again, all buildings saw a similar decrease in students who were 2 or more grade levels behind, except we had static data at Horizon, so not a gain or a loss. And I will say, as an anecdotal note with respect to Horizon, they are working really hard. I know Tony's here, she could attest to this, on figuring out the attendance issues with our kids at Horizon. Those are, I'm sure, contributing substantially to, you know, any kind of assessment score that we collect with Horizon kids. We're really having some tremendous difficulties with attendance. So, oh, I forgot to share the summary by school. There's the school summary for math. So just real quickly, that sounds like a lot of doom and gloom and overwhelm. So I just wanted to say maybe one positive thing. We do have some really strong strategies in place for closing these gaps. And now that we have some stability in our educator workforce again across the district, we're going to hammer targeted tiered interventions the second semester. We've allocated money to create a robust after-school intervention program, which we'll be launching as soon as I get approval in the grant, which should be any day now. And we have also included in our Title I grants robust intervention during our summer school programming. So last year it was difficult to do that because of the pandemic, but this year we really want to pay our teachers really well to come in and spend some time with the kids who need the most intervention and do one-on-one or at most three-on-one targeted intervention for a block of time. So that's what the research says is the most effective, and that's what we want to do with our kids. And then finally, we have relaunched our professional learning communities with an instructional learning cycle focus. And we are trying to focus on high leverage standards and targeting really specific high leverage strategies for the second semester. And just as a point of interest, because I don't get to talk to you guys all the time, I just thought, I know that there has been a lot of just irritation around foundations. We finally got our foundation shipment during January while we were off doing virtual learning. So those materials are now being distributed. I am now working with Wilson Learning to completely revamp the training program and relaunch the training program. But one of the really exciting things that I think has come out of this is we did have one building who was our test building, our pilot building, ECE. And so because they were the pilot building, they got all their materials early on and actually before the fall, like in the summer months. And they have been engaged in all of the professional learning and they've been implementing with fidelity. And so we get to do some really cool in-district training too, because we're setting up times and spaces for our teachers from other buildings to get to go and shoulder partner with their peers at ECE and get to learn shoulder to shoulder with their peers. So I'm really excited about that. That's something that, we hadn't been planning to do, but because of the way the circumstances played out, we get to do that. And I'm excited for that to happen. I'm also grateful for Ms. Smith and Ms. Lesko, who are going to be leading those efforts at ECE for us. Are there any questions about this stuff? Probably a million.
I have a question. No, it's more so you said that you guys are having like a attendance crisis at Horizon. Is it more so like the entire day or is it half of the day, like when it becomes the afternoon? Because I know they get to leave for lunch. So are they skipping?
I thought I saw you earlier.
What was the question?
I'm saying, is the attendance problem like through the entire day? Like the child is not there at first hour at all?
It's also the entire day.
Oh, okay. Because I thought the students might go for lunch and never come back.
Yeah.
I just
I'm happy to hear about all of the interventions being addressed finally and put in place in a more systematic way, especially the after school stuff.
Yeah, I'm really excited.
Or since we lost the whole program.
Yeah.
Okay, if there aren't any questions on this, and you guys will be getting an in-depth data dive later in the year when we have better data. The principals are looking forward to coming forward and sharing their data with you and give a more complete picture. So, Mr. Nagy asked if I would share with you guys just some of the things we've been working on around Grow Your Own programming to address our workforce retention and recruitment strategies. So these are things that we've been actively working toward for the last 2 months, I would say-ish. And a lot of them are going to have to be addressed through negotiations and bargaining, at least to some extent. So what I'm going to share with you are just some of the pieces that we are taking into consideration as we build out our programming in the future. So just a really brief sharing of the research behind Educare Workforce initiatives. The leading researcher is Richard Ingersoll. He's with the Learning Policy Institute out of Pennsylvania. And this is one of the most key understandings to take away from his research. And that is that to understand employee turnover is of critical importance because of its link to the performance and the effectiveness of organizations. Fully understanding turnover requires examining it at the level of the organization. And it also requires examining the character and conditions of the organizations within which employees work. A central finding in his literature is that high levels of employee turnover are both the cause and the effect of ineffectiveness and low performance in organizations. And anytime I give you guys information like this, I try to provide links just in case you're interested in diving deeper. And also, I'm always happy to sit and spew out stuff if you guys individually, if you'd like to. This work has serious equity implications. And so he estimates that states spend between $1 and $2.2 billion a year on teacher attrition turnover. And this data is now like, this study was published many years ago. So you can only imagine how inflation has affected that actual number. High poverty schools definitely experience a teacher turnover rate that is about 20% per calendar year and roughly 50% higher than the rate in more affluent schools. And studies suggest that the price tag for recruitment and replacement seriously underestimates the cumulative costs of the eroding of the caliber and stability of the teacher workforce, particularly in chronically underperforming schools serving our most vulnerable students. And this all comes from this research base on the path to equity. And that is linked as well for you. So I find this, I love this quote. I love this part of the conversation around Richard Ingersoll's work. So I added the emphasis here. This isn't it's a direct quote with my own emphasis, but rather than insufficient supply, the data indicate that school staffing problems are primarily due to excess demand resulting from a revolving door, where large numbers of teachers depart their jobs for reasons other than retirement. Thus, the data suggests that the solution to staffing problems does not primarily lie in increasing supply, but rather in decreasing demand. So in plain terms, teacher recruitment programs alone will not solve the staffing problems of schools if they don't also address the organizational sources of low retention. So with all of that in mind, we have been really putting pen to paper and trying to figure out how we can use research-based best practice retention strategies to improve our retention of our educator workforce, both at the teacher level, the administrative level, the support staff level. So some of the retention strategies that we are either currently employing or are planning to employ are mentioned here. Culture and climate surveys and committees, formalized mentoring and induction programming. We did launch a formalized mentoring and induction program this fall. It will continue to evolve and grow, and I'm really looking forward to Ms. Lukeman, who you guys met at the last meeting, she's taking over this project for me so she can give it her attention and her full attention. And we're going to be implementing a research-based program from great teachers, great leaders next year with our mentoring and induction group. So I'm really excited for that to come to fruition. Thirdly, something that I think all districts need to do a better job of, because it just gets lost in the shuffle, is recognizing their people. You know, there are formal recognition programs that are at the state and regional levels, and then we need to develop out our own building and district level recognition programs and make it okay to recognize our really outstanding teachers. That has been something that has been tough to accomplish in the past. There still persists in education this kind of like, we're all in this together, let's not elevate any one person kind of mentality. But research shows that recognizing those that go above and beyond and giving recognition to those who do extraordinary things is a good way of retaining them. So trying to work, I think this is one of those pieces that we need to work with our union on and make sure that we come up with something that's palatable, but also something that formalizes that process and recognizes our people. Some things that we are working on right now is investing in our professional credentialing. And I will share an example of how we already do that, but we are looking at how we can take advantage of grant dollars that are available through the state and potentially the ESSER 320% set aside to really, really invest heavily in credentialing, additional credentialing opportunities with our staff members. Invest in high interest, high leverage professional learning experience. Some that we are investing in right now are the letters training and the PLC Institute. I would love to invest in Harvard Project 02. We just haven't quite gotten there. Tenure bonus, we've done that. Mentor teacher and other important leadership committee work compensation, that is in place this year. Compensation for summer professional learning or out of contract time professional learning, that is in place this year as well. This is just, this is the GTL. I forgot I threw this in there. This is the link to the GTL mentoring and induction toolkit, just in case you're like me and like to nerd out on stuff like that. But this is how mentoring and induction affects our students. If you look at mentoring and induction, it increases instructional efficacy, which increases student performance, which increases teacher retention, and it also increases satisfaction with working conditions, which increases teacher retention. So you can see how that cycle works all the way through. So we really want to think about, as we're planning forward, we're really thinking about teacher leadership career pathways, because what we know about our teacher workforce on the whole from research is that our teachers don't always want to go into administrative pathways, but many of them want opportunities to lead. And so formalizing ways that they can lead without having to step away entirely from the classroom is one of the best retention strategies. So this is how our Michigan teacher pipeline works. I won't read that to you, but these are some of the career pathways that we are exploring. We want to build out internal instructional coaching positions. We want to compensate and formalize curriculum expert teams. We want to formalize administrative internships, just in case we do have, I know we have teacher leaders who really are interested in becoming administrators. And we have lots of need. So like making a partnership between those who want to do that and it will also benefit the district, and formalizing that relationship. Having teachers who are on special assignment to do specific projects that they're expert in, things that they bring to the table. Recognizing their expertise and giving them some release time to work on a project that we need done. PLC team leads, we put this in place the second semester, and mentors, that's something that we launched in the fall. So this came out today, actually from MDE, so I grabbed it and put it in here. But as you probably heard, Governor Whitmer has made a huge budget recommendation that would influence a $1.7 billion investment in educator retention programs and $600 million for educator recruitment programs. So I won't read these to you, but I'll allow you to read those real quickly. And the reason why I highlighted this expansions in the Grow Your Own programs of local districts is because that's what I want to talk about next. Are we good to move forward? Okay. So MDE provides a plethora of Grow Your Own options for permits, temporary approvals, and additional endorsements. Those are things that OED has been growing for the last 5 years, knowing that this educator workforce shortage was looming, just based on the numbers of people who were not enrolling in ed prep programs. But then it was exacerbated seriously by the pandemic. So these are all things that we can take advantage of right now, and we are doing some of these. So we can do special education approvals. We can do full year shortage substitute permits. We can do full year basic substitute permits. And this is in purple because I want to talk about this in a second. Alternative routes in the interim teaching certificate and additional endorsement programs. And we can also bring back retirees under the critical shortage law. So examples of Grow Your Own programming that we already have in place at HPS would be these. These are the ones that I came up with. You guys might be able to add to these. But we do already have an endorsement program with our ESL bilingual endorsements. And we do already pay certified teachers tuition fees if they will go ahead and go back to school and get their ESL or bilingual endorsement. And I linked the memo of understanding just in case you weren't on the board when that happened. I know most of you have more longevity than I do. And then we also, something really exciting that not a lot of people know about is this year we were able to grow our own through elevating a paraprofessional who had been in the CTE classroom for a long time by using her work experience in the field combined with her classroom support experience to get her a vocational authorization. And now she is the teacher in our graphic arts program. So that's really, I think that's cool. I think that is really, really exciting. And finally, this COSA Literacy Coach program is another example. It's a grant funded position. I did lose her because we needed her to help out with our special ed programming, but it is a position that we can definitely keep in place and continue to take advantage of. So those are our current programs. I promise this is coming to a close. There are additional Grow Your Own opportunities that we really want to explore and have begun exploring. The state has 2 grants right now that are available. They just reissued the RFP, so they're available again now. And one is the Future Proud Michigan Educator Pathway for individuals who are either working in PK-12 already, but are looking to change their endorsement area or expand their endorsement areas. Career changers, so people who have perhaps some college under their belt, but are working in a different industry and would like to become a teacher. And educators who are transferring their licensure from other states. So the way that we are going to move forward with this particular grant opportunity is we are sending out an interest survey to HFT to inquire about their desire and willingness to pursue additional endorsements in critical shortage areas and just kind of gauge where the interest lies. And then we also want to send an interest survey out to all of our uncertificated staff and work on pursuing and on their potential pursuit of a teaching credential. There are several alternative routes and expedited programs that are available to them. MDE Teacher Cadet Program, I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second, but that's the other grant opportunity that's out there. We are exploring a partnership with Wayne Community College to develop on-campus options for our own students to be certified parapros by the end of what would be their 13th year. So looking at creating a college experience for them right here on campus that matriculates into an actual certificate and they can use it for us. And finally, exploring a partnership with a teacher preparation program to develop a direct pathway, alternate route program for HPS. We're working with MDE right now to see what our options are with that. There are a few districts who have those partnerships in place across the state. And we're trying to figure out what we would need to do to make that happen for HPS. Teacher cadet programming, early phases of conversations around this, but there are two options. We could look at doing a teacher cadet program through a career and tech ed pathway, or we could look at running MDE's future Proud Michigan Educator pathway. But that would be an opportunity to influence our own students and provide them with learning opportunities around education for any of our kids who are interested in becoming an educator. And these are just, I wanted to link these up for you in case you wanted to dig deeper. These are the grants that we have currently available to us. And I mentioned too that we could potentially use ESSER 3, the 20% set aside that is required to be set aside to influence student achievement. And that's all I have for you. Thank you. That's my contact information. So please feel free to grab me if you want to talk about any of these things.
Thank All right. Do we have any audience participation?
One.
All right. Choral comments from remote audience. Okay.
So, good evening.
Good
I'm
evening.
Coral, Hamtramck Federation of Teachers, and I want to thank you for streaming this. I think it's really important for a lot of reasons. One, people are obviously still concerned about the pandemic, and there are people out there with health issues who want to be more involved and, but can't even without a pandemic have difficulties getting to a public meeting like this. Maybe mobility issues, or maybe it's something as simple as they have got little kids and they just can't make it. I know that other bodies of, kind of governing bodies around the state will read remote comments. And I've heard us say here that you guys don't feel as comfortable doing that because you don't want to misinterpret what somebody's saying. But I really want us to encourage a way to figure that out, whether somebody can call in. I'll read them if you want. I'm obviously here every time. But I want us to encourage people to become engaged at whatever level they can, because their voices deserve to be heard. And if they don't hear their voices, and if you don't hear their voices, they check out. And I think we're in a spot in our country where we can't have people checking out. We need them checking in. And so I just really want us to encourage a way to figure out how to get those voices who are out there watching on YouTube in here somehow. So thank you.
Thank you. All right. Do we have additional board discussions? Anything from the lobby?
Are there already items determined that we need to have on the COW agenda this month?
I would have to look at our list.
Okay.
Is there excellent?
I'm looking in direction because she keeps track of them, but so far I know we have David if he's available, and we'll discuss that matter and possible other updates I need to look back into.
Is there any-
There's one other item, the facility fee.
Right, that's right. Don't want to table for a second, revisit.
Gotcha. And then I guess I'm just thinking, since the two kind of biggest buckets, I think, of things that we had discussed being, priorities around some of the leadership transition we've had, revolve around, staff, culture, climate, staff recruitment, retention, and that seems to be getting most of its due attention, which is great to see. What in the updates and the communication have been and are good for us to have. But the other big bucket, what I think revolved around kind of a lot of our infrastructure issues, the construction projects, and a lot of things that are kind of up in the air still. And I don't have personally much clarity on kind of what the bigger vision is to meet a lot of our physical space and infrastructure needs, in the same way that it seems that, have been put into the staff priority piece. So just I think if we could use our COW meetings to have more workshopping and planning to the extent that we need to together to develop that bigger vision, so we know where we're going with all of those moving pieces that are involved. I think that'd be helpful.
So essentially, like the reason why it was created in the first place, right? The workshop, different pieces, the different projects and stuff like that.
Yeah, just just the bigger picture, the longer term, not so much just like, individual projects or spending items, but, I just, at least me, I don't know about you guys, I just I don't have clarity on what the big picture, project-wise, financial-wise is for, some of our undeveloped pieces of real estate, for, what we're wanting to do with, rest of the ESSER funds, that we have, what kind of timeline you do that according to, how that fits into bargaining priorities, all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, definitely. I just there's some things we gotta look into in regards to like the buildings and facilities and whatnot.
Right.
But yeah, like
right. So, I mean, looking into it is like, we all
big, need definitely
to, understand that and be part of that, and have clarity on what that, even if it's just what you're doing, moving forward with your team.
Particularly during the COW meetings specifically, is that
I think it's the best opportunity to have those deeper dives. Yeah.
Hi, Rita. Is there any way we can find out like why you were saying like the budgets and stuff? Just like budget, like with the little things, like we have like the recreation fund, how we have like the athletic fund. I just want to know like what's getting spent for our kids, and what do we plan on doing for like the year and stuff like that. So like for instance, the athletic fund, like as far as like new uniforms or the equipment, stuff like that, like what's getting spent, what's new, what's old, what needs to get replaced, stuff like that.
So that would be, I hope we can have our one-on-ones and then we can, zero in on particular things and then invite certain folks to present regarding their department or the area of focus.
Right.
So if it's, development, be rich, if it's athletic, Brian, perhaps, presentation on certain pieces that involves a particular school, like the high school, Mr. Kiner, Anthony Source. So we just need to connect and see what particulars you guys have, what questions for. Because we're just kind of still catching up on a lot of the items that were kind of still put on the back burner. So now it's like we're finally catching up. Because in the earlier months, there was a lot of things that were kind of tabled aside. So but definitely, yeah, we can zero in on certain things.
Did that work for you?
Yeah. Oh, but I didn't get to, I wasn't done. I wanted to tell Ms. Brewer that I liked it, her presentation. I'm looking forward to all that. And especially the teacher recognition, because I feel like a lot of teachers don't get recognized for the things they get, they be going above and beyond and, they don't get noticed for it. So I can see, sometimes they're like, okay, you're not recognizing me, but that definitely should be into place for sure. And one more thing. Sorry. The seniors, our seniors at Hamtramck High, we have the Lady Cosmos. Their senior night is February 18th. It would be cool if, we could show up. And then the boys is February 22nd. So like if you can't do both, at least try to do one, so we can support them. So they've been doing a great job.
February.
The 18th and the 22nd.
At the games.
Yeah, so these are the senior nights, yep. And it usually happens between halftime. So if you can't get there in the beginning of the game, just, show our support. They've been doing awesome.
Can you just send us a reminder text like a day before?
Okay.
Honestly, yeah, that's how.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks.
Anybody else? No? All right, resolution number 8, meeting adjournment. Can I get a motion? Motion by Mr. Obey, seconded by Ms. Hall. Resolved that the regular board meeting be adjourned at 7:46 p.m. All in favor?
Aye.
No nays. Meeting adjourned. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, they Friday night.
Yeah.
And girls. So
Yeah.
that's a definite possibility.